text number 51, yes?
Yes,
What?
yes, one verse today, 51.
51. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamodirayat. Text 51, Canto 10, Chapter 13. Atmadi Stambhaparyantayar Murti Madbhis Characharai Nritya Gitya Didnekarai Pritak Pritak Upasita Atmadi Stambhaparyantayar Murti Madbhis Characharai Rityagitya Pratak Pratak Upashita. Mutimad Sharacharai Nitya Gityadine Karai Pratak Pratak Upasita. Ladies? Atmadi Stambhaparyantayar Mriti Sharacharai Nrityagityadine Karai Pratak Pratak Upasita Atmadi Stambhaparyantayar Murti Madbhis Characharai Nrityagityadine Karai Pratak Pratak Upasita Atma Adi Stambhaparyantai. From Lord Brahma to the insignificant living entity, Murti Madbhihi, assuming some form, Chara Achara, both the moving and the non-moving. Nritya Gita Adi Anike Aneka Arhai, by many varied means of worship, such as dancing and singing. Pratak Pratak, differently. Upashitaha, who were being worshipped. Translation: all beings, both moving and non-moving, from four-headed Lord Brahma, he's the speaker, from the four-headed Lord Brahma, Adi Stambham, Atma Adi Stambham, from Lord Brahma down to the most insignificant living entity, had taken forms and were differently worshipping those Vishnu Murtis according to their respective capacities, with various means of worship, such as dancing and singing. Purport: innumerable living entities are engaged in different types of worship of the Supreme according to their abilities and karma, but everyone is engaged. Jivir Swarupaya Krishnera Nityadas. There is no one who is not serving. Therefore, the Mahabhagavata, the topmost devotee, sees everyone as being engaged in the service of Krishna. Only himself does he see as not engaged. We have to elevate ourselves from a lower position to a higher position, and the topmost position is that of direct service in Vrindavan. But everyone is engaged in service. Denial of the service of the Lord is Maya. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Ara Sabha Britya Yare Yaiche Natyaya Na Sa Taiche Hare Nritya. Translation. Only Lord Krishna is the Supreme Master, and all others are his servants. As Krishna desires, everyone dances according to his tune. Adi Lila 5:142. There are two kinds of living entities, the moving and non-moving. Trees, for example, stand in one place, whereas ants move. Brahma saw that all of them, down to the smallest creatures, had assumed different forms and were accordingly engaged in the service of Lord Vishnu. Paragraph. One receives a form according to the way one worships the Lord. In the material world, the body one receives is guided by the demigods. This is sometimes referred to as the influence of the stars. As indicated in Bhagavad Gita 3:27 by the words Prakrite Kriyamanani, according to the laws of nature, one is controlled by the demigods. Paragraph. All living entities are serving Krishna in different ways, but when they are Krishna conscious, their service is fully manifest. As a flower in the bud gradually fructifies and yields its desired aroma and beauty, so when a living entity comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness, the beauty of his real form comes into full blossom. That is the ultimate beauty and the ultimate fulfillment of desire. It's such a beautiful purport. Gosh. If I'm not mistaken, this is the last chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam that Prabhupada personally translated. The chapters that follow are the followers of, because Prabhupada had departed after the 13th chapter. And picture the scene of we've seen videos of Prabhupada in an emaciated condition, lying skin and bones only, and Jayadvaita Swami holding the dictaphone and Prabhupada speaking the Bhaktivedanta purports, and such clarity. It's otherworldly. It's not of this world. And the elegance and eloquence and the specific points being made, when I think of this situation, wherever Prabhupada was, he was on a transcendental platform. But if there was anybody that had a doubt, it was if he was on a transcendental platform. These two things, his emaciated condition and the clarity of the Bhaktivedanta purports. Whew. Having appreciated the transcendentalness of the source of these Bhaktivedanta purports, the verse is very straightforward and simple. The phrases that Prabhupada would use over and over. from all living being, from Brahma down to the insignificant ant. No, that's not what's in it's Atma Adi Stambha Paryantai. From Lord Brahma to the insignificant living entity. It doesn't say ant, the insignificant living entity. Adi, from the topmost to the bottom. The message is that Krishna had withdrawn the cowherd boys, and then he manifested his own cowherd boys. Now, it doesn't say that Krishna manifested all these other living entities down to the insignificant living entity. It doesn't say that. It says that these forms that Brahma was seeing included the insignificant living entities. That they were very clear to Brahma observing that they were manifest by Krishna. They had taken forms and were differently worshipping those Vishnu Murtis. Differently worshipping those Vishnu Murtis can be taken in a number of ways. And one of the ways is right within the purport. That is, everyone, every living entity, it means everyone. Moving, non-moving. This species, that species, high, low, in between. Everyone is engaged in service to the Supreme. Specifically, the word is used here, worshipping, upasana, they worship. The Vishnu Murtis, unlimited in number, and the living entities manifested in forms of worshipping the Vishnu forms. And the whole scene was Krishna's Yogamaya potency manifesting the unlimitedness of the unlimited. Because going back to the circumstance, Brahma was curious, like more than curious, offensive. Curious to the extent of being offensive. So he kidnapped the cowherd boy. He thought he had kidnapped the cowherd boys and put them in a cave, etc. And then he came back and wanted to see if Krishna was going to cry or something. And he saw the cowherd boys. So you know the history. Shri Shri Radhamadhava Hari. And he's now describing what he saw, the display of the unlimited opulence of the unlimited. Because, in principle, Brahma has opulence. Where does he get his opulence? From the source. And he wanted to compare his opulence against the source. So Krishna understood, and Krishna showed him unlimited. Now, how do you show unlimitedness? Because it's unlimited. So how many forms makes unlimited? Or how many opulences makes unlimited? So he saw what he saw. And the impression that Brahma received was, this isn't it. This is a portion of his unlimitedness. But, the exalted nature of what he saw was, now I know he's unlimited. I mean, not like he has perfect knowledge, but then now he's getting this direct experience because he was curious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who gave him the service of being the creator and gave him the ingredients and gave him the plan and gave him everything. And he did the Visarga program. He created the universe. So he's like, who can create a universe? Who can know those details? Just like, take anything. the architect that built this building, a lot of skill, a lot of education, a lot of this and a lot of that, and people that build anything. So it's just building is the phrase, because that's what Brahma did. He created, but he didn't create in the full sense of creation. He engineered. He put this together with that, together with that, together with that, and made a universe. And he wanted to know, what's the extent of this little boy's powers? So this is example. Krishna showed. And what did he show? All beings, both moving and non-moving, had taken forms and were differently worshipping those Vishnumurtis. Now, differently worshipping could mean many things. And we mentioned this, one of the things is exactly how he describes in the purport. All living entities, whether shown by Brahma in this particular pastime or not, all living entities are worshipping the personality of Godhead unknowingly, but the capacity to worship or capacity to serve comes from their constitutional identity as being part and parcel of the Supreme. So the worshipping those Vishnumurtis can mean they just, living entities do what living entities do. The trees do what trees do, and bugs do what bugs do, and they're worshipping the Supreme from their limited and covered positions. It could mean that. And it could mean that they all manifested four-arm forms. And as Vishnu Murtis worshipping, Vishnu entities worshipping Lord Vishnu, in four-arm forms they worship Lord Vishnu with appropriate paraphernalia and so forth and so on. It could mean that. In any case, the position of all living entities is as servant. And, in different degrees of manifesting up to the position of fullness, or partial, and then diminished. Tiny, tiny, tiny. But worship, and misplaced, yes, misplaced by the affinity for sense gratification instead of the worship. But even in the sense gratification part, at least those who are in the topmost position, those topmost position living entities see misdirected, but service. They can see. There are two kinds of, I'm going to read from the purport, two kinds of living entities, moving, non-moving. Trees stand. Brahma saw all of them, down to the smallest creatures, had assumed different forms and were engaged accordingly in service of Lord Vishnu. So that sounds like it indicates it wasn't just the tiny living entities, insignificant bugs and trees. They were serving in those bugs and tree form, but they assumed an additional form. And in that additional form, the spiritual form, they were worshiping the Supreme Lord in their spiritual form. Paragraph. One receives a form according to the way one worships the Lord. In the material world, the body one receives is guided by the demigods. So one can say by the stars, but what are the stars? They're abodes of higher beings. So life is influenced by those methods. And so Brahma was able to see. I mean, he created the stars, but he created everything that makes up a universe. Like he's a smart man, a living entity. But the deeper picture behind, it was displayed, so he could see. And it was, it was a wow experience. Adbhuta, rasa. Krishna was giving him, exchanging with him in a certain way so that he could experience wonder and astonishment. This reciprocation of loving dealings with his devotees. So I'm going to end the class. I have to go use the restroom also, so I'm going to take a break, and I'll come back, and we'll have questions. Krishna. Comments, questions, discussion?
Maharaj, I also appreciate Srila Prabhupada. Every time I read this chapter, I think of him in Vrindavan, on the bed, and reminds me of him.
Yes.
as you said, it's amazing, that he was able to give all these purports, dictate at that stage of his life. And I usually feel like crying actually when I read these, because he was suffering so much and yet he has so much to give us.
Yeah.
To the very end. It's just
moving.
I'm very moving, and I'm greatly indebted to Krishna Prabhupada for giving us all this till the last minute. Very, very,
Life of service.
very indebted to him.
Looks like that's it. Srila Prabhupada ki Gaur Pimanandi.